Hey guys, how's it going? Today should be a relatively short video. I'm just going to go over the first 10 words of Unit 12 vocab. You got choosing the right word for Unit 12 posted on Google Classroom. Make sure you do that before the day's up. Get that done for me if you have any issues with it or anything seems wrong with it or off with it. Send me an email, let me know. Same thing if you have any questions on any of these words. We will probably start poetry in our Pearl Literature book next week, and I may post some poems that I get offline and things like that. I know we've gone over it a little bit throughout the year, but I feel like since we'll only have about 3.5 weeks left of school, it now is the time to really kind of make sure that we're firm on that, so be ready to do that. It'll probably mean less overall work because you won't have Shirley exercises and things. You will probably still have some vocab with it. But it may mean a little bit more reading than you've been doing. So just heads up on that. All right, so the first word of Unit 12 is abduct. This is a word you're probably familiar with. It's a verb. It means to kidnap, to carry someone off against their will. So if you're walking down the street and someone pulls up in a van, throws you in the van and drives away, they have abducted you. If you do the same thing to another person, you would have abducted them. It's not a very nice word. It's not a very nice thing to do to someone. You could use it jokingly. You could say something like, my friends abducted me and saved me from having to listen to my grandma's story about whatever, something like that. But it does mean to take from one place to another, usually against the person's will, unless you're using it as a joke. Word 2 is ambiguous. This is a word you've probably heard me use before. It means something very similar to the word vague that I know you've heard me use before, V-A-G-U-E, and you've probably seen me write on your papers occasionally. So ambiguous means something that's not clear. It's not obvious, and there's room for interpretation, basically. So if you say, he seemed really ambiguous towards me, that means you don't know whether the person you're talking about likes you or not. Like if I treat you in such a way where one day you think, oh, I'm his favorite student, and the next day you're like, oh, he hates me. You might say my feelings and my behavior toward you is ambiguous. I could try to keep it that way for most people, keep it on your toes. But if I say something in your paper is ambiguous, and then I mean it's vague, it's general, it's not specific, you need to be more clear. Like if you said, Daniel changed in the bronze bow, I'm going to say, yeah, but this is vague or ambiguous. How did he change? Be more specific. And this is an adjective. You use it to describe something. Word 3 is balk. So to balk is to stop and refuse to move on. Like if you are walking with your parents in a supermarket or something, or Target, and you've been in there shopping for like 3 hours because you've got one of those moms who just cannot go to Target without spending 3 hours there. My sympathies, I grew up with that. But if you have a mom like that and you balk in the middle of the aisle, you stop and you say, I'm not going any farther. You sit down and you crawl up under the buggy and you're like, push me, mom. You have balked. You have stopped short. You've refused to go on. This is commonly used with like a horse or a donkey or something. If it's like pulling a cart and it gets exhausted and it balks, it stops. That means it's just refused to move any further. And you'll usually see it with an animal like that. That's probably the most common usage of it. It is a verb. This can also be a baseball term if you're familiar with that. Feel free to use it that way, but I don't want to confuse you if you're not. So if you're not, don't worry about it. But if you already know the term from baseball, I don't mind if you use it that way. Otherwise, think of it as like a horse or an animal or yourself in Target just stopping, refusing to go further. Word 4 is compact. This has several different meanings in several different parts of speech. It can be used as an adjective, like something that's tightly packed. Like if I have a compact ball of paper, it means I've taken that ball of paper and I've crinkled it down to where it's really, really small. Like I had a full sheet of paper and it's now compact. It's now small. You've heard the term compact car. It means like a small car below the normal size. If you know anything about firearms, you've heard the term compact handgun. Like you've got a full-size handgun, then you've got a compact, a smaller one. So it means something that's smaller than normal, more tightly packed together. It can also be a verb that means the act of squeezing that down. So if I take a piece of paper and I compact it, then I have squeezed it down, made it compact. You've heard the term trash compactor, probably. It's something that takes trash and crushes it down and makes it small so that it's more manageable. That's the act of compacting something. This can also be an agreement between a group of people. You and I could make a compact that we were going to try to see who could grow the biggest pumpkin, and whoever did got a prize. We make a compact, an agreement over that. That's a noun. It could also be, you could use it as a name for a type of car. Like you could say, well, we bought a compact and blah, 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 and just say compact for the car itself. Use it as a noun. That works. You could also say compact car, of course, and use it as an adjective. And this can also be like the little thing that women carry around in their purse. It's got the mirror and like they use it for makeup and stuff, like the little small round thing that flips open. That can be called a compact as well. So there are a bunch of uses for the word. I'm gonna say stick with the adjective and the verb if you want to make it easy. Like we bought a compact car, but it was big enough for our family, or something like that. Or I compacted the ball of paper and threw it in the trash can. Those I think are the easiest and most clear usages, and the ones you're probably familiar with. If you want to use one of the noun uses, by all means do, but don't confuse yourself with it if you don't have to. Word 5 is confer. So to confer with someone, this is a verb. It's to talk something over, usually like to discuss something. Mostly this would be in private. Like if you have a problem with your grade and you come to me and you say, hey, can we confer about this? It means, can we talk about this privately? Can I discuss this with you? That sort of thing. So to confer with someone is to go and seek their opinion, seek their advice, or discuss something with them, that sort of thing. You might confer with your dad over what you should get your mom for her birthday, something like that. That would be the type of thing you would confer with someone over, and it's always a verb. And you may, if you think about the word conference, which is like a big thing you go to where people discuss things and talk about things, it's like a big noun form of confer, which is that verb, just to talk about something. Conference, noun, big place where people talk. Confer, the actual act of talking to someone about something. Earmark, word 7. This word can be a verb or a noun. Usually it means to set something aside for a specific purpose. I see it used most often as a verb. So if you've got $20 and you say, I'm going to earmark this money for my mom's birthday gift, that means you're going to set that money aside and you're not going to touch that $20 for any purpose other than to get your mom a birthday present with it. So you've earmarked that money. You've set it aside and you've said, this is what this money is for. Businesses do this a lot, different organizations. They'll say, all right, we've earmarked funds for this new project. We've got, $10,000 that we're going to put towards this new project. That means that money is earmarked for that. It can't be used for anything else, or they're not going to use it for anything else. Governments do it and all that sort of thing. And of course, individuals can do it, but we don't generally say as individuals, I'm earmarking this money for this purpose. We'll say, I'm going to use this money for this. But so it's used more commonly in a business or government sense, but you could absolutely use it individually. And now as a noun, it's a completely different meaning. An earmark of something is a trait of it that is very obvious, very noticeable, something that identifies it specifically as that. So if you've got a friend who has crazy spiked up blue hair, and they always have had that. I know at ACA you don't, but maybe you know somebody who doesn't go to ACA. I don't know. But you've got a friend who has crazy spiked up blue hair. That's an earmark of them because that's something that they're known by. It's something that makes them very obviously them. You're not going to come up on some random person in the street with spiked up blue hair and it be a different person most likely, because how many people in one part of the country are going to have crazy spiked up blue hair? Not many. So it would be an earmark of that person. This could also be a personality trait. Like if you know someone who cracks crazy jokes all the time and is just kind of a goofball, that might be an earmark of their personality. It would be something they were known by. You can use this word either way. You can use it as a noun, like a trait that someone's known by, physical or personality-wise, or you could use this as the verb, like to set aside funds. Either way is fine. It can be a bit of a tricky word. I would pick one usage or the other and learn that, okay? Actually that was word 6, I'm sorry. Word 7 is frigid. So frigid, it sounds kind of like Frigidaire, like the refrigerator brand. And it's based on that, or Frigidaire is based on the word frigid. Frigid means cold. You'll see this used a lot when describing like cold environments, snow, ice, things like that. If something is frigid, it's really cold. We have a refrigerator. Inside of it, it is frigid. If you sit inside of it, you will understand the meaning of the word frigid. Please don't get inside your refrigerator, if you would fit. Some of you probably would. But frigid means cold. This can also be used figuratively. So, the idea of like giving someone the cold shoulder, which means not talking to them, treating them in a way that you don't really care about them. To treat someone frigidly or to give them a frigid reaction is kind of the same thing. If you try to talk to a friend of yours after you've hurt their feelings, they might be really frigid. They might not have much to say. They might act like they want you to go away. That would be a frigid reaction to you. So it is an adjective. It always means cold, whether actual physically like shivering cold or figuratively like cold shoulder type of cold. It's up to you. Both work completely fine. It's not a terribly difficult word. Word 8 is implement. So implement is another word that can be used as a noun or a verb, and it has different meanings, although they are kind of linked. As a noun, an implement is a tool. It's something you use for a job. So an implement of a student would be a pencil and like a notebook, paper. Pencil and paper, those are implements of a student. A ruler, or a protractor or something like that would be an implement of math class. A carpenter's implements would be like a saw and a hammer and nails, things like that. Um, Implements of different professions, whatever would go with them. You could use it that way. That's totally fine. Those are nouns. To implement something as a verb is to put it into practice. So if I implement a rule that you don't have to have your work done on a specific day, it's all due Saturday at midnight of the week that I assign it. I'm not doing that because it'd be a nightmare to keep up with for me and for you. But if I implemented that rule, I would be putting it into practice, putting it into effect. This college football season, maybe they implement a rule that they're going to back kickoffs up 10 yards. That all it means is they put that rule into practice. I don't think they'll do that, but implementing something, putting it into practice, that's the usage as a verb. As a noun, it's the actual tool. That's why I say they're kind of linked. You could use an implement to implement something, and I think that's why it uses the same word, but either usage is fine with me. Word 9 is incalculable. So something that's calculable, it sounds like calculate, it's what it is. Something that's calculable, it's an adjective, would be something that can be calculated. There are a calculable number of sixth graders at ACA. I could tell you how many sixth graders there are at ACA. If you asked me how many sixth graders are there on the planet, that number is incalculable. It would be really, really hard to get a definite count on the number of people at the sixth grade level on the whole planet. That would be complicated. If I ask you how many grains of sand there are on the whole planet, that's incalculable. Nobody's going to be able to go out and count every grain of sand. It's something that you cannot calculate. This can be used more figuratively instead of literally counting something. Incalculable could mean something that you can't predict, something that's uncertain. So you could say the changes of the weather are incalculable. It doesn't mean you can't total up a number because you're not dealing with numbers, you're dealing with weather, but it means you can't predict it accurately. It means it can change at a moment's notice. So that's another usage of incalculable. It's always an adjective. If you just remember that calculate and can't be calculated, you should be in a pretty good spot. Just make sure you use it as an adjective. It's not a terribly difficult word. Word 10 is indisputable. So again, this is a word that uses that prefix in to negate, to flip something. Something that's disputable, a dispute's an argument. Something that's disputable is something that can be argued. Something that's indisputable is something that cannot be argued. Okay, so if your dad says, no, you can't go to your friends tonight, they have the coronavirus and you're not bringing it home. Hopefully your friends don't have the coronavirus. But if he says, no, you can't go over there, that is indisputable. He means you're not going to argue with him about it. There's no discussion to be had. That's it. If I say there is indisputable evidence that you broke this vase, I mean, there's a video of you walking in and knocking the vase off and then waving at the camera. That's what indisputable would mean. It would mean there's no argument. You can't possibly prove that it wasn't. You can't argue against it. Indisputable, completely inarguable. Again, not a terribly difficult word as long as you remember dispute is an argument. Like if you and I get into a dispute, we're arguing. Something is disputable if you can argue about it. Something's indisputable if you cannot or you are not allowed to argue about it. Okay? Shouldn't be too difficult. If you have any questions on any of those words or anything about choosing the right word, let me know. I'm trying to get some of your grades in that are backlogged a bit. I put in grades every day, each school day. Like I'll put in the grades from today on Monday and then Mondays on Tuesday, so on and so forth. But some of you, if you've missed an assignment and you either had it blank or had a 0 or whatever, or if I've let you make up an assignment or something like that, I get those grades in. I try to get them in the next day after you've done them. Sometimes I miss a few because I'll have 5 or 6 students who have done an assignment that they forgot or something like that. And I understand it's hard to keep up with all this online. That's why I'm being pretty lenient about it. But if at the end of a day where you've done an assignment, like if you did an assignment on Thursday and on Friday at like lunchtime, I haven't put in the grade, send me an email or message me on Google Classroom and say, hey, I was just checking to see if you'd seen this assignment. I probably have, but I probably forgot to actually change your grade. Because again, it's a lot of numbers to keep up with, a lot of kids to keep up with. So just let me know. You're not going to bother me by doing that. But it helps me help you by getting your grades and keeping them accurate. I know some of you who have 0s probably want that changed because you've done the work now. Now, don't do it at like 8 or 9 in the morning because I'm going to change it. But if, again, by like lunchtime, 1 o'clock, if I haven't changed it, send me a message, let me know. Hope you guys have a good weekend. See you later.